Don't come to Thanksgiving. We're cutting ties. My mother-in-law texted right after I helped them secure a $3,900,000 loan. I just replied understood. Then I quietly canceled the entire loan. 1 hour later, 69 missed calls. Hey Reddit. My name is Amelia and I was the kind of daughter-in-law every mother claimed to want until the moment I was no longer useful. My story starts the way many family disasters do, with good intentions, ignored boundaries, and a mountain of entitlement I didn't see coming until it was already crashing down. I didn't grow up rich. I wasn't handed things. Every dime I have was earned. But the moment my in-laws realized I could be useful to them financially, I stopped being a part of the family and became a tool they thought they could manipulate. And the moment I stopped being useful, they dropped me like a stone. Unfortunately for them, they dropped me right after I helped them secure a $3,900,000 loan. Before I get to the Thanksgiving text and the missed calls, I need to go back. Back to when I met James. James was my husband. Still, as though after what happened, we've spent the last few months redefining how we move forward, not just as a couple but as individuals who saw just how dangerous it is to let toxic people too close for too long. We met during grad school. I was working toward my MBA in finance. He was finishing law school. We clicked right away, not just romantically but intellectually. We challenged each other, but we also supported each other in ways that felt real, rare, and solid. His parents, however, were a different story. James came from money. His father, Gregory, was a retired venture capitalist who now spent his days playing golf and attending board meetings he no longer cared about. His mother, Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia was a socialite in every sense of the word. Perfect pearls, a permanent glass of Chardonnay in hand, and a smile so tight it could cut glass. She was elegant, sharp, and terrifying in the way only certain wealthy women can be, beautiful and cold like a snow-covered cliff. When I first met her, she greeted me with a smile and the words, "You're surprisingly well-spoken." I thought James said you were from Wisconsin. That was the beginning. James told me to let it slide. She's just old school, he said. She means well. But it didn't stop there. At our engagement dinner, Cynthia commented that my dress was charming in a Target kind of way. When we announced we bought a small fixer-upper instead of moving into the family property, she said, "Well, I suppose everyone needs a starter home." Still, I smiled, bit my tongue. I told myself she'd come around. She didn't. Fast forward 5 years. James and I were solid. I had opened my own financial consulting firm specializing in business structuring and capital access for high net worth clients and startups. It had taken me years, sweat, and so many sleepless nights to build, but I made it. By 31, I was managing multi-million-dollar portfolios. Banks returned my calls. Venture firms invited me to panels. My name held weight, and that's when Cynthia came knocking. It started with a lunch invite. That alone should have been a red flag. Cynthia never invited me to anything without James. She showed up in her usual designer coat, full makeup, and a faux concern painted across her face. "Amelia, darling. This isn't easy for me to say, but we're in a bit of a situation." I raised an eyebrow. What kind of situation? Their latest business venture, one of Gregory's legacy projects, a luxury eco-hotel in Aspen, was facing unexpected delays. Construction costs had ballooned and the equity investors were pulling out unless they could show additional funding to bridge the gap. They needed a loan, a big one, and not just any loan. One that required a clean structuring file, a seasoned financial lead to oversee compliance, and a formal relationship manager to vouch for their capacity to manage the funds. They needed someone with my credentials. I sat there watching Cynthia sip her wine like this was a casual favor, as if she hadn't spent the last 7 years making me feel like the charity case her son married out of guilt. "I'd understand if this is too complicated for you, dear," she said casually. "I mean, this kind of high-level structuring isn't something most women your age can handle." I smiled. That was the moment I should have walked away, but something in me wanted to prove her wrong. No, not just prove her wrong. I wanted to do it so well that she'd never be able to look down on me again. So I said yes. I spent the next month doing what I do best. I built the full financial package, corrected their sloppy projections, negotiated with 2 regional banks, and worked through 3 layers of internal compliance to secure a deal, a $3,900,000 commercial bridge loan. It was approved the day before Halloween. They were ecstatic. Cynthia called me that night and actually said the words, "You really surprised me, Amelia. I didn't think you had it in you." It wasn't a thank you, but it was the closest she'd ever come to giving me credit. James was proud. I was proud. We even got invited to Thanksgiving. Cynthia sent out the group email with a little note that said we'd love to celebrate family gratitude and partnerships this year. Partnerships. I rolled my eyes but agreed to come. The shift happened a week later. I started getting left off of group chats. Cynthia planned a ladies' brunch with the other daughters-in-law and didn't invite me. When I asked James, he said she probably forgot. She didn't forget. Then James's brother Carter posted a photo online. He and his wife dining with Cynthia and Gregory at a restaurant I had recommended. The caption read, "Family first. So grateful for the people who show up for us." I was stunned. I showed it to James. He frowned. "I'll call them. This is weird." The next day I got the text. "Don't come to Thanksgiving. We're cutting ties. This relationship isn't working anymore. We'll manage without you. Good luck." No context. Just like that. I stared at my phone, rereading it 3 times. I expected anger, heartbreak, confusion, but all I felt was this eerie wave of clarity. It wasn't personal. It was transactional. They got what they needed and now they were done with me. I replied with one word: understood. Then I got to work. They didn't know I had structured the loan under a conditional trust model, perfectly legal and standard for that size when personal credit leverage is involved. They didn't know I was listed as the supervisory advisor on the disbursement agreement. They didn't know the final transfer hadn't been processed yet, pending final signature from me. So I did what any uninvited daughter-in-law with a backbone would do. I walked into my office, called the bank, and canceled the deal. Not delayed, not paused, canceled due to unforeseen risk changes in the borrower's stability and relationship with the advisory entity. It was clean, quiet, final. 1 hour later, 69 missed calls from Cynthia, from Gregory, from Carter, even from one of the construction partners. They hadn't just lost the loan. They lost the investor confidence that came with it. Because as soon as the bank notified them, the other partners pulled out too. $3,900,000 gone. All I had to do was click one button and I hadn't even started yet. 1 hour. 69 missed calls. I watched my phone light up on the kitchen counter while I made coffee, completely calm. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. Because for the first time in years I felt like I had finally taken my power back. I had spent nearly a decade biting my tongue, dimming myself down and making myself small just to fit into a family that never truly wanted me, only what I could offer. Now they couldn't reach me. Because the moment I saw Cynthia's name appear for the 12th time in a row, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, took my coffee to the sunroom and opened a book. And let me tell you, it was glorious. James came home around 6 p.m. that evening. He'd been in depositions all day and hadn't looked at his phone. When he walked through the door and saw me calmly roasting vegetables for dinner, he frowned. "You okay?" he asked, loosening his tie. "You look too calm." I raised an eyebrow. "Too calm? You only get that face when something big's happened." I smiled. "Check your phone." He did, and the color drained from his face. Oh my God. Missed calls, group texts, emails, even a voicemail from Carter that began with, "James, you need to get your wife under control," and ended with a threat of legal action. He looked up at me, stunned. What did you do?" "I canceled the loan," I said simply. He stared at me like I confessed to murder. "But how?" "It was already." "No," I interrupted. "It wasn't. You knew that. You were with me when I explained how the trust structure worked. You knew I had final authorization." He blinked. "But I didn't think you'd actually." "They kicked me out of the family, James," the first said, voice quiet but firm, "not just from Thanksgiving. They told me we were done." I simply made that real. He didn't respond for a long time. Just sat down at the table and stared at his phone again. The next voicemail was from his mother. I watched him press play. "James, this is your mother. This is an emergency. You need to call me back right now. I don't know what kind of witch you married, but she has ruined everything. Do you have any idea what she's done? Your father is losing it. Carter's lawyers are involved. Fix this or don't bother showing up for Christmas. I mean it." He looked up at me slowly. "I didn't know they were capable of this," he whispered. I nodded. "Now you do." To his credit, James didn't defend them. Not this time. He didn't try to explain it away, didn't use words like they're just old school or that's just how mom talks. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. You always said I didn't see it. I do now. I'm sorry it took this long. That was the start of real healing between us. Because until that moment I wasn't sure if I could forgive him for enabling them for so long. But seeing him choose me in the middle of that chaos, it mattered. What followed was a glorious unraveling of the facade Cynthia had built. By Monday morning, the investment group attached to the Aspen project pulled their remaining interest. 2 other partners withdrew letters of intent citing instability in the financial structure. One of the regional banks I'd worked with even flagged them for review, standard practice when a loan that size is revoked at the final stage. They tried to backpedal. Cynthia sent me an email titled "Let's Talk." She started with, "Amelia, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding." Emotions were high. "Let's clear the air and move forward with grace," followed by a casual note asking me to call the bank back and correct the error. I didn't reply. She followed up 3 hours later. "This is now affecting real lives, Amelia. I hope you understand the damage you're causing." Still no reply. Then came the guilt trip. "I've always considered you part of the family despite everything. You really want this to be the legacy you leave?" And finally rage. "If you don't fix this, we'll see you in court. You think you're smart? You're nothing without us." That one made me laugh out loud. Nothing without them. The same people who disinvited me from Thanksgiving because I was no longer working for the family. Yeah. Okay. James, meanwhile, was stuck in the crossfire. Carter sent him a cease and desist email, not even from a real attorney, accusing me of sabotaging a family enterprise. James wrote back one line, "My wife acted within full legal authority. Any further contact can go through our attorney." They stopped emailing after that. Thanksgiving Day arrived. Our plan had been to go to James's parents' estate like every year. Obviously that didn't happen. Instead, James and I hosted our own. Just us, my parents, a few close friends, and my sister's family. It was warm, peaceful, and filled with laughter. At one point during dinner, my mom leaned over and said, "You look lighter." I smiled. I feel it. We haven't spoken to Cynthia or Gregory since. Carter went completely silent too. No accountability. Just the sound of a door slamming shut behind them. And we didn't try to reopen it because sometimes people show you exactly who they are when they think they no longer need you. And when they do, you don't beg. You don't chase. You just quietly canceled alone. I used to believe that being the bigger person meant always forgiving, always understanding. But I've learned that real strength isn't staying silent, it's knowing when to walk away. You can be kind and still set boundaries. You can be generous and still protect yourself. And when someone tries to treat you like a resource instead of a human being, you can take everything they took for granted and put it right back where it came from. With one quiet word: understood.